that. And of course, thank you all as well for being here. We appreciate it. When we do this, I think we each know each other, so we don't need any introductions here. We appreciate. So is anyone participating remotely? I forgot to ask. No one is remote, therefore we do not need to approve and make that determination. Administrative items, the minutes, we can't, I believe I was told we can't approve without those who weren't here previously by the attorney the last time we attempted to do that. So what we can do is also delay it and then come back should someone else come. Do we anticipate someone may come, Martha? Oh, let's go ahead and just approve the minutes and be done with it.
Yeah, I
What's
think,
two?
so what we did yesterday in our public outreach committee,
Yes.
the group did approve the minutes and just acknowledge that some members may not have been on the committee.
That's okay.
Therefore weren't in attendance.
That's in order.
And that was
Legally.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay, legally. Okay, why don't we do this then? Let's take a quick gander at the minutes on page 4. Let's take a look at that. Just a highlight, we can see items dating back to January, July, year-end financial report and audit, financial statement update, budget update by Mr. Van Dornick. And of course, the meeting was, that's future meetings. The meeting was held on August 22nd. Wow, this is last year. That's pretty old. And then we had another minutes for October 31st. I thought we approved these minutes. But we had not, we did not? Okay, okay. In October 31st minutes, as shown here, where we discussed with the external auditor, historical data, financial policy updates, and other items to be looked at. In February the 1st, 8:30, we held a meeting along with 3 members. And so that meeting was held. And of course, what else do we have here for minutes? We also have minutes from March 20th, 11 a.m., wherein we discussed a number of administrative items. Remote was, no members participate remotely. Financial statement was as of February 29th. Proposed budget amendments, which we approved at that meeting, and upcoming meetings as shown here with upcoming issues to be discussed: cash flow, fund balance, budget policy, and budget priorities, along with proposal for cancellation of our draft. At that time, the meeting was adjourned at approximately 12:05 p.m. And therefore, I move for approval of the minutes as presented. And if you would like to second, Ms. Stewart, I'll entertain it.
I just have one change on the March 20th minutes.
Please make that change.
My name is spelled
March
wrong.
20th. Thank you. And
That's
let
okay.
me find it here.
At the very top. While I am a good
Yeah,
steward.
you're absolutely
yes.
right. I can see the change. I see it. Thank you for that correction.
No problem.
So noted.
And I will second
With
your
that-
motion.
With that change, and it's properly second, us two in favor, saying aye. The minutes are approved. Thank you, Ms. Stewart, for that update. Appreciate that. Thank you much. Now, next thing we'd like to do is we talk about administrative, item 3. Let's move to the financial statements as of April 30th, Mr. Van Dornick. Page 12 is where you are taking us to, as I understand it. So where are we on page 12? Here we go. I got it. Page 12 and 13 respectively. I see side by side the balance sheet and the other information. Yeah, page 12, sorry. I was thinking it was a combined, but no, it's not. It's a separate page. Page 12, Mr. Dornick, what do we have today?
We have the April 30th balance sheet
Wonderful.
compared to the last audited balance sheet of June 30, 2023. And a couple of quick highlights.
Please.
You'll see the cash and cash equivalents as of April 30th at 314,000.
Okay.
That is actually a strong number for this time of year.
Compared to last, well, I'm always trying to look at where we were last year at this time. And
Year
looking at
over
June
year,
30
it would be-
Year over year, well, we're year over year in terms of the balance sheet.
I don't have the exact number
That's
from
okay.
a year ago, but it's a higher number.
Yeah, so it was a higher number last year.
No, this year is higher.
This year, that's
Yeah.
what I suspect. Thank you.
And so
Appreciate that.
part of the cause of that is the efficiency in the collection of accounts receivable.
That makes sense.
But with that 314,000 compared to, 98,000 between the last 2 months of the fiscal year cash becomes not tight, but, something to watch a little bit more
Okay.
closely,
All right,
given that, the member dues, a significant part of our budget is collected in cash in July of the fiscal year.
okay.
So it's
Member
just-
dues in July.
So it's just
Correct.
reflecting the
July 1.
drawdown
Okay.
of that funding source.
Yeah, now, given that's July 1, that may not impact June 30th, our fiscal year end. What about the liquidity of the receivables? You got accounts receivable, what about the liquidity thereof
Right.
in terms of enhancing our cash balance?
One thing to highlight, out of the 941,000 in
Yes.
accrued revenue,
Yes,
520,000 of that is actually accrued for our TPO program, both the PL and the 5303 funds. This was an emphasis this quarter was to get that billed
okay,
sooner than normal and collected sooner than normal.
great,
So those were actually billed. The 331 bill was sent on May 1st to VDOT and on May 8th for DRPT, which is sooner than what we've historically been able to submit. But the key date to note is the 387,000 sent to bill VDOT has already been paid. So by the
Repeat
21st.
that again, the 387, where are you looking, where is that?
It's not shown here. It's a
Okay.
component of what's in the April 30th
Okay,
accrued revenue,
right,
but within 21 days, that actually turned into cash,
great,
which is an improvement in our collection cycle for that particular
okay,
payor.
yeah, okay,
And so we
Right.
continue to work with them, work with ourselves. Diane and Karen have done a wonderful job of improving our ability to submit those bills
okay.
in a timely basis.
Okay, and that leads to one thing, I don't wanna get ahead of you, but that leads to what the anticipated cash balance is gonna be June 30th. And where we're gonna end up, I see accounts payable are down by 67,000, so we're paying our bills, that's compared to last, June 30th, last June 30th. But I'm just always curious as to forecast where we expect our cash and cash equivalents to be at June 30th. I think that's important to know.
Right. I don't have an official
Okay,
forecast of the cash balance, but I would expect that it will start to return to levels prior to June 30, 2023. It should exceed $100,000. I'm working out a target cash balance for, minimum levels.
okay,
A component of our fund balance policy that we're working on as an emphasis here in this committee.
okay,
But I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that the 98,000 from last fiscal year was a low balance
it was
from what
low
we've,
compared to what we anticipated.
and what we anticipate now is expected to be significantly higher than that 98.
Great, that's good to know. That's good to
So-
hear.
But the good news is that we are tracking more efficiently in our collection of receivables, so that turnover cycle has improved.
Improved, good.
And therefore, turning those receivables to cash is, essential for us.
Okay, is there anything else we can do to facilitate that, Dan? What can we do better? Is there anything you can think of?
We are currently working with VDOT on the possibility of submitting our bills monthly.
Please,
And
please.
but there are a few obstacles, a few issues that we need to address with that. It would be an exception for them to do that for us.
Okay,
They've expressed a willingness to work with us. But part of what our requirement would be is that we have to submit complete billing packages. So that includes progress reporting and a lot of things out of the operating side. And so we would need to make that decision as to whether or not that would be, truly beneficial to us to
Yeah.
do those.
if we could do speed up accounting for that purpose.
Yeah.
And that makes me think about our accounting system, and I know we've talked about that for years, what our accounting system and things of that nature, but
Right.
that's something we need to.
But there's some
work toward.
logistical issues on the
Yeah.
TPO side
The
for
TPO.
them
Okay,
putting together their reporting, approving their reporting,
okay,
those types of things on a
Okay.
monthly basis versus, they've adapted to the quarterly basis
Quarterly
as well.
basis, yeah.
So But we will be looking at that.
Have to.
The other element is we'll continue the work that we've been doing in just accelerating the submission of even our quarterly bills to a point where we shouldn't have a long turnover. We should be able to do the submission within, the first half of a month after a quarter. But it's been a good long emphasis of Diane and Karen this year to really put together that information on a monthly basis so that when it comes time for billing at the end of the quarter, it's not as onerous.
Okay, I think we can improve in those areas, certainly. I agree. And one other thing I'm thinking about in terms of speeding up cash flow, we don't want to appear too desperate, but I'm always thinking about the localities, usually budgets year begin July 1, and they cut their checks starting July 1. And I was just wondering have we ever considered their advancing that payment, maybe accruing it, they could accrue it and pay it. I'm not sure how they feel about doing that from a cash perspective, but that's something that I would think about. What do you think about it? They can accrue and pay?
Diane, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think our bylaws or charter already require that the dues are supposed to be paid by July 1.
By July
We
1.
should be getting the invoices out.
Yeah.
So the invoice will go out in advance, so July 1, they are due by,
Yes.
the cash is due by July 1.
If I'm not
Okay,
mistaken,
good.
we're supposed, according to those governance documents, we're supposed to invoice June 1st for July 1 payment.
Good, I like that.
Not
Good.
every jurisdiction pays by July 1, but many of them do,
Who is slow? I'm sorry to call that.
the city.
The city of Richmond?
Yes, and
I'm not
I think it
surprised.
has to do with their financial accounting system.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
an error to pay a payable for the fiscal year before the.
Before this, yeah, I
It's
can see that.
And their,
Yeah.
as you've probably been reading, their financial management system is harder
Yeah.
to manage, I think,
Yeah,
than other
yeah, not
counties.
surprised, yeah.
My understanding is that,
Chesterfield and
How much,
Henrico.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Chesterfield and Henrico have usually been very timely.
I know we can be. Now, they're not that much though. They are like a couple $100,000. They're not that much.
Chesterfield and Henrico are
The
more
biggest,
than
we're the
Richmond's.
biggest
Yes.
combined, yeah, more than combined, we're way more than Richmond, which doesn't surprise me. We have far more population, so far more people. And according to the paper, we're growing. Y'all see the front page of the paper
Yeah.
today? Wasn't
Yeah.
that something, Chesterfield? I was saying it the other night, literally.
Yes.
20 to 30 people are coming, it's true, dude. What I was saying was true, every day. But anyway, that's good, but we can deal with that. I mean, they're okay.
during the last 2
but
years,
that's- yeah.
we've, developed a good list of contacts within
Yeah.
each municipality.
But
so
what we
can
should
shepherd
do
the
is,
bill
what we
all the way
might
through.
do is, I know they cannot probably do something their system doesn't allow or prohibits, but we want to make sure that they know that, how late are they usually, by the way? I'm sorry to ask that, but how late are they?
August,
Is it-
September,
What?
I think this last year they actually paid within July,
was it?
but it was
Good.
part of the shepherding process. that
Good,
helped.
we want to shepherd them, let's shepherd them. Let's work with them a
Sorry, I
little
didn't
bit.
mean to say that then. I apologize.
I could have, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
City.
yeah, no problem. Let's shepherd them and help them.
Yeah.
It's maybe give them a call, have a relationship, tell them we want to encourage them. But anyway, let's do that.
Yeah.
So that will help us. But go ahead, Dan. I want to speed up cash flow because we got to look seriously at our cash position and what options, as we talked about way last year, what options we want to employ and consider as options going forward, cash flow wise.
Right.
But right now, it's good to see where we are, cash flow wise. And I'm
Okay.
always curious too, I see that you got the audit, but what might be good if we could add another column, and I hate to add more work on you, but just the 430 last year, and then you can also have 630. I think that's good. If you could put a second column in there, might tighten up the numbers a little bit, but put in there last year's 430. And that way we'll have a comparative analysis to see things that we are improving on this year. And then you can have the 930 audit, that's fine. And you really don't need to change. I don't need to see the change in that regard, because as long as I can see the comparative numbers, I'm okay.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
it makes sense definitely to add the
Yeah, let's
year
do
over year.
that. Let's do that going forward. All right.
And then just one other thing to
Yes, sir.
add regarding the liability section, the accounts payable, both those amounts included a couple of exceptional, vendor payments. So the normal balance is down, but about $100,000 to $150,000 at the end of any given month. And so depending on the timing of those balances, but with the $200,000 invoice that was at the April 30th balance, we were able to work with our funder to actually get that submitted, and we received payment for it prior to us actually dispersing funds. So we didn't have to go out of pocket to front the vendor and then go back to a slow paying payer. So
Okay,
that was, again, another efficiency gain
good.
that we had.
Good, great, great. Yeah,
And then just to highlight, the targeted unassigned fund balance of, $1 million.
Wow,
is
that's
still,
good.
We're still
nice.
exceeding that by, that 15%.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
And the treasurer's report,
Yeah, thanks for that treasurer's report. I like seeing that. Because
the,
I'm checking always up above and down below, comparatively to see where we are. Good.
and so we do have a good positive interest rate for
Great.
immediate
Yeah, it's
access
good.
funds.
It's a great interest rate. You're earning good money, which is good. Good money. I'm
So-
glad you outlined the monthly too. Thank you. That's nice. Great job, Dane. Anything else of significance you want to do on the balance sheet?
Not on the balance sheet.
Okay, good deal.
Mr. Holland, I apologize. Janice just gave me some information. I misspoke earlier. The governance documents actually say the local contribution of each member jurisdiction is due on July 31, which means we invoice on July 31, excuse me, due on July 1. So we invoice July 1, and the payment is due in single lump sum by each member jurisdiction prior to July 31.
31.
So I
Okay.
apologize.
That's
I
okay,
said
no
the
problem.
time
Hey, don't
frame wrong
apologize.
early.
You don't have to apologize.
Sorry about that. So-
No, don't apologize. You're
All
fine.
right, yeah,
Don't
so
apologize.
invoicing
That's
is
okay.
7/1.
Yeah, so 7/1, not June 1.
Right.
Okay.
This
But
past
anyway,
July, we actually did have a good record of payment. I think there was only
Good.
one
Good.
jurisdiction
Good,
that was extended beyond July 31st.
good, good.
So just want to
Okay.
make sure that
And so
the
with our big,
jurisdictions
yeah,
get their credit.
yeah, and with our big ones, I think that's important that we almost call and make sure that they're aware of we want them to facilitate payment, especially at Chesterfield and Henrico, Richmond somewhat, maybe help them out. Who else who's the third, fourth biggest? Who's the-
Hanover, but it's sizably smaller.
Very small.
But
I
Hanover
think it'll be
is the
very small.
next
Yeah, with Hanover,
largest.
no big deal there. Let that ride. I'm not concerned with that. The big three, make sure the big three are there.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, Dan. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate
All right,
that.
thank you. Now, where we going next, Dan?
Profit and loss statement.
P&L, okay.
So
Still use that term.
it starts on 13, the one that has the monthly trend. So we'll focus on that more so, given where we've been historically.
Yeah,
But
highlight what you think is important. Dan.
I want to jump to page 16 and
Yes,
address
sir.
the bottom line.
Yeah, that's always a good place to go.
First.
The bottom line. There's a good report called the bottom line, accounting report, in the accounting circles.
So through the 10 months ended April
Yes, sir.
30th, 2024,
Okay,
the commission is operating a $1,000 deficit,
that's not too bad, given.
which given 2 months ago,
Yeah,
we're at a very different number.
you're right about it. Woo, man, it makes you feel better.
So-
Look back, looking at the different categories, yeah.
But just as a word of warning,
What's that?
the March and the April earnings of 48,000 and 44,000 are not typical, are not expected to recur for May or June.
Right, correct, because we brought on, what, 2 people, remember? We
Well-
brought on,
Yeah, the issue is that in March, we received a grant from a project partner, which was recognized that entire month. That was 48,000. So if you take that out of
I remember.
March, that's a break
Okay,
even.
good, gotcha.
And then in April, we had a correction in billing for one of our vendors for one of our programs that I wasn't accruing the revenue. to the level that was billed. The billing was appropriate, it's been collected,
Good,
but it gave an artificial increase to the monthly revenue there.
okay,
And then the other element of that of that particular program, it's one of our emergency management grants, is that we are now complete in building that program, except for, a few dollars.
okay.
So
Gotcha.
May and June will not have that revenue attached to
Okay.
the wages.
Okay,
And so we'll be
Gotcha.
monitoring that closely.
okay, please.
My feeling is that the projection of $5,000, $6,000 is probably still
It's still
accurate.
reasonable, okay, 6,000 is good enough for me,
Because,
that's good. I
You
can
know,
live with
May
that.
and June, our vacations increase.
Correct.
So time
Makes
off
sense.
increases, which means that chargeable time decreases.
Correct.
If we go back to the very top of the statement on page 13, looking at the very top line, the federal share of our PL funds from VDOT, the TPO revenue. In March and April, we've had a significant surge in that revenue. And that's from the adjustments that we discussed, in those previous months, how
Yeah.
we're focusing all of staff time onto those projects.
Gotcha, okay,
Such that their time is billable, collectible.
yeah,
One of the adjustments that we made mid-year to address our budget situation, our funding situation at the
great,
time.
great. You're referring to 4101 MPO PL funds, right?
That is correct,
That's what you're referring to, I agree, I'm on the same page. Very good, very good.
okay?
That's good, Dane, it's great.
And so the assignment of staff, their focus on chargeable time is bearing fruit, falling to the bottom line. But just to understand that, both May and June have holidays in them,
Sure,
whereas March and April did not.
that's expected, no problem,
And vacation season starts.
yeah. And
Just
that-
the natural calendar also
Yeah.
reduces a day or two.
Right, and that's reasonable to have ebb and flows, and that's why when you have a cushion, the ebb and flows do not hurt you, do not take you out, or do not hinder you and impede you significantly. So that's okay, we expect ebbs and flows, that's the normal cycle, so not a problem.
Dan, this is a weird question for you, but
Please.
do you think February might be sort of, just based on what you said a moment ago, number of days, billing, it's a short month to begin with.
True.
Do you think that might be sort of what could be looked at as a potentially typical month?
I think it's much more typical. Given the number of days, given that it was a leap year, we got the extra 8 hours per person.
I forgot about that.
So when I did my, billable hours per month chart, it was like 1 day less than perhaps in June. So it is, I think, representative because your vacation season wasn't in play. There were, the PTO elements just weren't there. So we're pretty productive.
Okay, I see, thanks for the question.
So, and, some of the other elements, if you look at the very bottom of that page 16,
Okay,
you see
16,
transfers
okay.
for capital projects.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier, I was looking at computer, I saw computer stuff.
Yeah, we still have the reserve for 25,000.
Yeah, I see that, 25,000 for computers, okay,
In April, we did
we haven't spent it yet.
purchase.
April, we did do the purchase in April?
Right.
Yeah, only, go ahead. Please, I'm sorry.
But we're watching the earnings, our performance,
Right,
to see if we want to go ahead and finish.
finish,
Yeah, we-
purchasing the equipment, in other words.
Yeah, a year ago, we proposed in the fiscal '24 budget that we kind of reserve $25,000 a year for information technology,
Correct.
so that we could be on a regular cycle of
Okay.
replacing our computers, other
Computers, yeah.
technology.
Yeah, good.
So we slowed down our planned purchase for this year
Okay,
to see how our budget result, our performance would actually occur.
okay,
We did have to purchase 4 new ones,
okay,
and so we'll be meeting as a management team, May and June to see if we complete that purchase this year.
okay. It's
Or-
good, yeah, in terms of the age, in terms of the usefulness, because sometimes age can be a factor, but also it could just be other issues where you have to replace
Right.
equipment.
Yeah.
And so, what is our normal rotation cycle? What are we looking at in terms of rotating? What's years or periods?
We have laptops in service that, maybe 5 or 6 years in service,
Okay.
but we're really looking to get to a 3-year cycle.
I think a 3-year would be good. If you get to a 3-year cycle, will be advantageous.
And then the
Yeah.
quality items
Okay.
that would be 4 years old would be the computers that are held in reserve for interns, guests, someone,
Okay.
that needs work on their computer, whatever the need may be.
Okay, yeah, that's a goal to get there.
So given that we're so technology dependent,
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we're
technology.
ahead of the game
Yeah.
with our staff.
Wonderful, good. I
You
think
know,
that's good,
it's
that's
Part
important.
of that forward-looking
Yeah,
concept that we have.
okay, that's very important. Very good. Be
That's
on the
another reason why I think that the $5,000 budget target is the most reasonable.
side. Okay, I
Is
got you.
because we'll be looking at that expenditure at the end of the year.
I got you. All right. And there was one area Chairman Davis mentioned at our last meeting about that area, that line item. So great. Good to hear, because I didn't know, one question in my mind when I'm thinking outside is, what is our replacement cycle and where are we in that cycle?
Right.
Where are we? Because we can't get too far behind there. You don't want to get far behind. With that technology, it's so critical nowadays. So,
And again, to, remind the committee, both those capital items are actually funded through our operating budget.
good, yeah,
So we don't have a
Makes sense.
separate revenue stream for them. We're not
That's
taking out
right.
of reserves.
yeah,
So that was an
Okay.
advance that we made from
okay,
fiscal *23 to this year. In
Okay.
fiscal '23, we had all the capital expenses for this
okay,
property, so it wasn't feasible to do it. But I just wanted to reemphasize how we're approaching that. We'll
Okay.
talk about it a little bit
I
more
like
when
your
we get to
caution.
the budget.
Yeah, I like your rationale.
So-
Great, Dan. That's good. I'm
So with
comfortable
that-
with what y'all doing, man. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's what I wanted to emphasize on the financials for April, so unless there are
Very
other
good.
questions.
Any other areas of concern on the financials, income statement that you're aware of, or any other areas you think we need to be looking as we approach June 30th? We always have in mind where we're gonna end up in June 30th. We gotta always keep that in our focus.
Continue diligence on
Okay.
employee time, because that's how we earn
Gotcha.
our
That's a
revenue.
big one. Okay,
Make sure that they're in,
Yeah.
funded
okay.
activities,
All
not
right.
that we want to neglect other things that we need to do.
All right.
But we just
Indeed.
need to be, diligent about that as we come to the close of our fiscal year.
That sounds good.
And, also continue to monitor our spending patterns.
Okay, yeah, whenever we can make improvements in that area. Any other ideas or what have you, it would be great to know, if you will. Looking over anything, I don't see anything that's of concern. Are there any lingering things that we need to look at, Martha and Dan, regarding our transition here? Are we pretty much set now relative to transition, or are there things that we should look for? Thinking in terms of furniture, things like that,
Yes.
are there concerns from your mind that you'd like to achieve?
Not concerns. I think Dan will talk this through with next fiscal year's budget.
Okay, all
As-
right.
As you might recall, Stuart, when we moved into the building in December of 22, thank you. We brought a lot of the furniture from the old office here. We were able to surplus and dispose of some pieces that maybe frankly couldn't make the move, but many of the offices were furnished, all of the enclosed offices were furnished with furniture from the old building. This fiscal year, we were able to redo the furniture in this room, to make the space more flexible, create, different layouts and that kind of thing. And we also were able to achieve, replacement furniture for 5 enclosed offices. Next fiscal year, our hope is to be able to continue in the phased approach and
Okay.
have, 3 more enclosed offices, upgraded to kind of modern day furniture. And then also install 6 workstations in that last area that hasn't yet been filled. And that really will allow us to host interns and or, we oftentimes will get requests from people that want a hot desk. So they have a meeting here and they just need to go, do work for a while, that kind of thing. So Those are incorporated into Dan's presentation for
For
next fiscal
25.
year budget.
Good, I expect, great,
And
glad
then
you're on
we'll
top of
just
it.
continue.
Good.
The rest of the furniture in the office, I think, is in pretty good condition.
Okay,
Dan and I have had a couple of conversations that we have some lingering areas where we might like to do some upgrades, but we don't think that we need to necessarily do it through our furniture provider here. So, i.e. we can be more affordable with sourcing elsewhere, but I think we've
Okay.
got a good, I think we have good confidence that what we have for this year more than meets our needs.
great, glad to hear, thank you, Martha, appreciate that. And also the area we talked about previously in terms of, you know, ending up with a good cash position and also congratulations again, Martha, in
Sure.
terms of you and what
Yeah.
we need to do in that area. We got work we gotta do in that area, so we want to keep that forefront, so that'd be good. Anything else, Dan, on that April 30th? Anything else you think of importance, before we move to the work plan priorities for 25?
I don't have any other.
Thank you. All right, good.
Staff is next.
Martha,
Yes.
if you would kindly, look at item 5, work program priorities, discussion items,
Sure.
and your input there for us.
Yeah. So you probably remember that in the last several years, I've presented what we've called key imperatives
Yes.
for the upcoming year. Our staff leadership team have been meeting to discuss those key imperatives for the coming year, and we've come up with 5 that are proposed to be the guiding principles or priority activities for our upcoming work program. Those are, and these are wordsmithed as of yesterday when we reviewed it with our public outreach committee. So I apologize for not having a handout, but it was,
That's okay.
we were editing on the fly.
You're fine.
But they are coalesce our regional strategic plan. The Virginia Code requires all planning district commissions in Virginia to prepare a regional strategic plan. And we are required to report annually to the Department of Housing and Community Development on the status of that plan and our activities undertaken to implement that plan. Historically, we've used the various subtopical planning documents as our updates. So examples would be the long-range transportation plan or the hazard mitigation plan. And so our goal this year, from a leadership team perspective, is to really knit those plans together. We will still always produce the functional plans. As you know, we need to do that for the TPO and for other purposes, but the idea is that we want the objectives and intentions in the long-range transportation plan to align with the other plans, like our economic development strategy
Absolutely.
or the housing plan, so that they begin to talk to each other.
Absolutely.
And on their whole, create that, kind of unified vision for the region. So one of the first steps that we'll take in achieving that priority imperative is in the joint annual meeting. Our intention is to have a facilitated sort of workshop style discussion with members of the CVTA, the TPO, and the commission, taking advantage of all of you being in the room at the same time, to talk about what the key priorities of that regional strategic plan should be. Our staff have taken a look at each of the local government's comprehensive plans and
Great,
any other
great.
sort of county-wide planning documents, and have come up with 6 sort of guiding principles that we'd like to test at the joint annual meeting.
Great.
And then have the respective members of the boards participate in an activity facilitated by John Thomas from Decide Smart that really helps define what these terms mean. So they are strategic and resilient infrastructure, economic vitality, quality and diverse housing options. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, they're here on the slide.
Okay, wonderful, great.
Thank you so much, Janice, or Sid, thank you.
Thank you.
Safe and, yesterday we
Okay.
presented safe and healthy community.
Communities, okay.
You'll see there, the discussion
Yes.
yesterday suggested that perhaps that connoted things that we didn't intend. And so the tested language that we have now is prepared and resilient community. Thinking more about this from an emergency preparedness perspective.
Very good.
As opposed to safe and healthy community. In the discussion yesterday, that connoted crime, access to healthcare, things that are very important to the region, but frankly, things that PlanRVA doesn't involved with, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Then environmental stewardship and equitable opportunity and choice. Again, these are themes that our staff took away from reviewing all of the planning documents from around the region.
Super.
That we felt were within our purview. So these are not intended to be exhaustive of what you've said in your local plans, but they did feel like they were representative of consensus, at least in the documents, as it relates to the typical work that PlanRVA is responsible for. Going back to the discussion that we had yesterday around safe and healthy community and prepared and resilient community, sort of putting those two as alternatives. The thought is that we are starting with what, at a staff level, we understand to be our mandate, if you will. If the board chooses to expand or contract that, that's the type of direction that we're looking for. So, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah, I'm understanding. Yeah.
But again, these would be the, again, with the exception of the change from safe and healthy community to prepared and resilient, this would be the 6 priorities that we would test at the June 13th meeting.
Excellent.
And the result of that workshop session would then enable staff to move forward with that first key imperative of prepare the regional strategic plan. Does that make sense? Okay, great, thank you.
Great, thank you.
The next key imperative is, and actually, whoever just put that up, if you don't mind putting it back up, there is a slide in there that has the key imperatives, which would be great. Thank you so much for doing that. Just keep, there, proposed 2025 imperatives. Next slide. Yep, yeah, right there. So, again, the committee yesterday worked on wordsmithing, so this is the slide deck that they looked at yesterday. The guidance from the committee was to create action words as part of these, so rather than just regional convener, be the region's convener. Keeping with the conversations we've had over the last year that this is a place and a space, literally, physically, that we've invested in to create an environment where our region's leaders can come together to talk about the issues, just like you did on Monday evening.
Monday evening, yeah, I hope it was good.
And absolutely, it was wonderful, and can either be something that our staff assumes as a task or not, but this space is unique insofar as it's one of the few places that all 9 jurisdictions come together.
Wonderful.
And so how do we take advantage of that?
Yeah,
So being the region's convener is a key theme for this coming year.
I think that's very important, thank you.
Then had some discussion about the term local technical assistance. That has meaning for us as staff, but we learned yesterday it doesn't necessarily have meaning or clarity for commissioners. And so the language that I came up with in response to that discussion is, so not quite finalized yet, but support member jurisdictions through local planning assistance, grant writing.
Grants, yeah.
You know,
that's one I
that,
think
so
is
just being
particularly
kind of
important.
more explicit there.
Yeah,
That's been a priority of the board the last 2 years and really
Great.
emphasizing our support of local jurisdictions. The fourth is serve as the regional data hub. Again, feedback was that using the term data center connotes something that we're not talking about. Data centers aren't,
that's a different
that's a
animal.
different thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a hot topic in the region, so data hub felt like that was a more explicit description. And then
Okay.
finally, ensure compliance and agency sustainability. So again, so this list, really just putting
Fine.
action words and
Okay,
then putting a
fine.
finer
Yeah.
point. So these are the proposed priorities for the
Okay.
coming fiscal year. And then our work
Okay.
program follows from this set of 5 priorities. This is sort of our guiding compass.
Okay,
And then working toward achieving each of those. We have been collectively working on a document that'll get distributed to the full commission on June 3rd that itemizes the key, if you don't mind, actually going to the next slide. Actually next, sorry. Keep going, definitions, that's where I wanna go. What we've done, our staff, I have not done this, our staff team have created these definitions that start to really crystallize the products that our organization develops. And so we have planning products, we have studies, we have programs that we administer. And so across all program areas, we have started to categorize the deliverables according to this this set of definitions so that we're consistent across each program area. And so the work program will highlight the key activities, the planning products, the studies that we'll undertake, and the programs that we'll be administering in the coming year by each of the program areas that are represented in the
In
financial
the financial
statements.
program, good.
Yes.
I see.
A couple of highlights that I'll just share with you are, of course, in transportation, we're kicking off the long-range transportation plan this year, and so that is critical. I don't think that those are in this slide deck, so it's okay, Sid. Oh, yeah, actually. There you go, yeah. So we've got the long-range transportation plan. We'll also be kicking off the hazard mitigation plan update. The comprehensive economic development strategy is a product that's gonna be returning. We've had that effectively on pause since 2018. And then we'll be launching the green infrastructure plan. So those will be initiating and working their way through their respective processes as kickoffs this year. And then you also know that we're already embedded and engaged in the greenhouse gas reduction plan. And so that was kicked off this fiscal year, but as a continuation to next. From a study perspective, we are launching the Rural Transit and Micromobility Study. That's part of the approved Unified Planning Work Program for the TPO.
Yeah.
And also a major priority for the TPO this year was taking a look at our transportation safety outcomes. And so we'll be convening a variety of stakeholders across the region to look at how we can maintain for the first time, the TPO adopted our transportation safety measures as a plateau.
Yes.
In other words, keeping crashes and fatalities and more importantly, stable as opposed to having it be on I think it was a 3% increase, which is the state's goal. And so taking a much more proactive approach in really being able to address the negative results of collisions and, modal conflict across the region. So that'll be a big effort this coming year.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, local planning support, grant writing is gonna be a big emphasis. We'll be preparing for our TPO recertification, so that speaks directly to that compliance piece. And then launching our regional indicators with the upward mobility framework. We'll be kicking off a public session on that at PlanRVA Day, really highlighting the work that we're doing with the Chamber, United Way, and Community Foundation there. And that speaks directly to that regional data hub. And then finally, our Community Engagement Innovation Lab. Again, in the budget that Dan will go over, he'll probably note that we have a particularly, I think, significant investment this year with a software platform that will create a lot of opportunity for us to reach residents across the region through digital means.
Okay.
That's not obviously the way that everybody communicates, but it's the way a lot of people communicate. And so it will expand our reach into many of our jurisdictions and communities to be able to create more dynamic ways to interact with each of the planning efforts that we have underway. And then it'll create tools that we can use when we do physically go out into community. We'll be able to have more dynamic resources available to us. We're testing some things utilizing artificial intelligence to be able to synthesize information. So as an example, CVTA recently had a public hearing where there were, Janice, I don't know, hundreds of comments that came in. And Janice spent 10 hours reviewing every comment that came in, reviewing them, categorizing them, trying to create a methodology for summarizing. We have a staff member who's created a mechanism that through AI, we can use AI to be able to analyze that text and categorize it according to, and so it will create greater efficiency for us and hopefully better accuracy. And, the idea is that if we have the analysis, synthesis power to have more public input come in, then we're not constrained by that to be able to get more input. So we're very excited about that. And that final bullet there, the Community Engagement Innovation Lab, is sort of intended to connote that we're gonna be testing a lot of different strategies this year. Holly's been on our team for about 9 months. And we're gonna be approaching this from a learning perspective that, what works, we'll keep doing. What doesn't work, we will stop doing, and we'll continue to iterate and learn from that.
Wonderful.
So again, this is just a highlight of some of the priority products from this fiscal year's this coming fiscal year's work program. And I know Dan's gonna go through the financials of that and sort of how we're planning to resource all of these activities, but wanted to give you that sense of the highlights.
Yeah, great. I appreciate that because it's really it's very helpful. When you mentioned data science, just yesterday we opened a ribbon cutting in Chesterfield for Carissa which is gonna be a $2 billion investment into Meadowville. They're gonna hire 1,000 people.
Wow.
I mean, I have never seen anything like this place in my life.
Wow.
They had computers that like $500,000, servers and everything. They had one client.
Did you see dollar signs, dollar signs?
Huge. They got one building, they're gonna build another one. They get ready to build a second building. Yesterday, we took a tour of this, the supervisors, Chesterfield, huge investment. It was mind blowing what I saw yesterday. I never seen anything like. Now, one of the comment I'll make that came to my attention, and I talked about it with Homewood, Kelly Horn.
Yes.
Was in Los Angeles, they're using AI to predict homelessness,
Wow.
pre-homelessness. They're using AI. Is moving in that way, a NACO article about using AI, and they talked a lot about AI yesterday.
I'll have to talk with
They
her.
talked a lot about that, but Kelly Horn, if we can prevent and anticipate homelessness, we can have better wraparound services, which is what we're trying to do in the county. And I mean, it's just mind blowing the things that are happening. Our sheriff, for example, get this now, talking about regional priorities and things we need to be working toward. Our sheriff brought in roofers in the jail to show and train our jail population about roofing. They hired them right out the jail.
Wow. That's
They
great.
hired them out of the jail. They would anticipate giving them guns, handguns and nails and hammers. The sheriff's deputies were a little concerned, naturally so if you've been in a jail before. But it was amazing. They hired them out of the jail.
That's great.
The sheriff in Chesterfield County, Sheriff Leonard, shockingly. But anyway, the AI thing is big. The data center thing is huge. And so when you mentioned hub there, I was thinking about that yesterday's data center. But I like the idea of the innovation lab. I think is critically important and what we got to do is look at, because we're constantly trying to look at how we improve and communicate. We don't have local papers in Chesterfield anymore. We lost two, and the Time Dispatch is all we got in this region, which means we're gonna have to step up our game regionally in terms of how we communicate and interface with the community and in those ways. So I think that's critically important. And then technical assistance, I think, is another big one. One thing I'll share that I talked about with the new president of the Richmond Region Tourism yesterday, is about making this place ADA compliant, this region. It's a big initiative that they launched last year. We're gonna refocus on ADA compliance in the region. So that's an initiative that Richmond Region Tourism is exploring. And so we're looking forward to more in that area, because sometimes things we take, we don't even think about, but may not be as ADA compliant as they could be. So another opportunity going forward, but it sounds great on the priorities. Martha, that sounds good. I appreciate it. One thing I was thinking about when you talked about the comprehensive plans in the area is that the people that really have a deep dive into those will be like, assistant directors in our planning department. Our Steve Harsh in Chesterfield, our Andy Gillis, Director of Planning in
Yes.
Chesterfield. Those individuals, it may be helpful as we approach the regional group, is maybe have a phone call and hone in and see if there's anything they think, hey, that we can focus on.
Okay.
Or that we can put a nugget to, would be helpful.
Okay.
Somebody like
Yeah.
Steve Harsh, who's really great at planning, and Andy Gillis, Director of Planning in Chesterfield, and or the directors of those areas, because some we may be missing. I don't get into the comp plan very deeply. Every 5 years we renew it, but that's it. I don't get into it very deeply at all.
Okay.
But I know historically what we'll put in there will be transportation impacts to allow for more transportation. I know in our plan, I was indicating we should have more bus and or transit options, and now the mobile option is available, which is great for citizens that need it. But anyway, thank you, I appreciate that. That's a great update.
Sure.
So really good update. Anything, Ms. Stewart, Joy? I know you guys.
I'm absorbing, I'm
You're
being a
absorbing?
sponge today. No, I know for New Kent, we are revising our comprehensive plan right now, and
Good.
before I became a supervisor, I was much more involved in it. Now I've got too much
Wow.
stuff to learn, but before I was really involved in it just because of how quickly we're developing and where the regions we're developing, and we don't have public transportation. So I think your suggestion about meeting with the planning departments or planning
People like you,
representatives
because your expertise
would
in
be
that.
good. Don't call me an expert, but I've read it, I know about it, I've seen all the pages.
Yeah.
But I think for us, we're in kind of a transformational
Yeah.
phase right now. Our plan is gonna be different after it's renewed than it was before, just because read the news, we're growing.
You on.
Do you think it'll the comp plan will align more with the county's strategic plan?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I think so.
So we at least maybe got pieces of that from the review of that document, right? But we can talk with Kelly,
Okay.
and
That should be great.
and just kind of validate to make sure we're in the right direction. Okay, that's helpful,
Super.
thank you.
Super, thank you. Thank you, excellent.
And if there's
excellent.
anything we can do to help on the comp plan update.
We'll talk later about
Okay.
that, because
That's
I think
great.
there are a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
that's great. And when you say transportation here, I'm thinking of micro transit. Might be something that we could look at in
Yeah.
outlying areas, you know.
And that's
that
on
would be-
the docket for this year.
That's great.
Yeah.
If we could do something like that, for example, here, I'm just gonna share with you. I got my GRTC app here, okay?
You riding the bus now?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Good.
I'm trying to get them, but they got a ride, so I didn't need to wait for them. Somebody came along, I see people, they ain't gotta give me a ride, they ride, so I didn't do it. Them over below you, it says out the network, over below you, that was built to have a car service, they said out of the network. But this is something that hopefully we can explore in areas like New Kent and other outlying counties that GRTC can have like those micro hubs
Right.
that can facilitate transportation for
I think
people.
that's a really big issue for our county, especially with our new ED that we have in the western end of the county. We have a lot of senior citizens, they don't have transportation
See.
to, so we're just so close to civilization, but also so far in the way, it's convenient for people that live in New Kent, but it's not convenient if you get taken to Richmond, how do you get back to New Kent? How do you
True,
get back to the ED? There's no, if you're a
Right.
single person, hopefully you make
Yeah.
friends with a nurse and they can come pick you up,
Yeah.
So I think that's something, while it's not in my end of the county, because I'm pretty much in James City County, I do think it's a big issue as we continue to expand, because older people are moving in because they want a great place to live for
Sure.
the rest of their time, but we don't have the resources to offer them that they need.
Yeah, that'd be a great for them, transportation network and hub. So that's
I
an
think there's
opportunity.
a lot of opportunity.
I agree. That's wonderful. All right, thank you, Martha, for that. Proposed budget, as Martha laid it into you, she laid it to you, so you're on live. Dan, you're on live.
All right,
Doing
here we go, fiscal
Go for it.
25.
What you got for us, sir?
Just to set the stage a little bit,
Yes,
fiscal
sir.
25 is the
Yes,
year
sir.
that starts July 1, 2024, and
Yes.
finishes June 30, 2025. So, as with the financial statements, I like to start at the very bottom line first,
Okay, which
which
page
is on
it?
page 26, the very last
Okay.
page of your package.
Okay, very good. 26, okay, yes, sir.
And this proposed budget is actually showing a surplus of 66,000.
Wow, that's a huge difference, isn't it?
And we'll talk through how that came to be
Okay,
and
please.
some of the qualifications
Okay,
that we'll need to work through
okay,
to look at that number.
all right.
So, moving back to the very top on page 23. Per conversations and information with the finance committee in our previous meeting,
Yes,
the
sir.
revenues included are only those that are confirmed at this time. We are
Okay.
developing a pipeline of applications for new grant sources. Still working with project partners. And so the revenue plan will be an evolving plan.
Okay, so we only can be going hopefully up.
That's correct.
That's what I want to hear. Good. Make me happier. I was thinking about that coming in this morning.
Right.
Good.
And so, a couple of key items there. The very two first lines, local membership dues and state appropriation.
Yes, sir.
You know, the region is growing, and therefore our
Yes,
local
we are.
membership
Population's
dues are growing as well.
growing. Great.
You know,
That's good news.
the majority of that number is funded by, the largest population centers. But we also included the state appropriation. The governor's budget,
Did any big increases from the governor? Did we get some more money?
it's the $25,000 that's listed.
Good, so the General Assembly was listening.
We asked for 150, I'll just say, but we'll take 25.
25, okay, Bob. Take all you can get.
Saying.
Take all you can get.
2025 is higher than zero.
Yes, it's zero. You got it. Absolutely.
But, credit is due where credit is due.
Yes, sir.
That was definitely one of the latest elements to the revenue profile that we added. And so it was very, very important.
Thanks, Martha.
If you notice down the left side, I changed the format of how I list the revenues. I actually listed them by our program groups
Okay,
and
gotcha.
by their actual name,
That's good.
rather
That's
than our
descriptive.
accounting numbers and
That's descriptive.
flipping
That's
it
good.
between federal source and state
Good,
source.
good. But that's descriptive. That's good.
Yeah,
So we can read.
to my mind at least, it makes a little bit more sense for a reader for, management tool.
Yeah.
Transportation is listed first. It is still definitely the most significant
Biggest.
revenue source.
It's the biggest year. It has been.
And two things to emphasize there, you see PLV dot, and then you see PLV dot carryover.
Okay.
Same thing with section 5303. I split out those two carryovers.
And why you do that?
They equal $730,000.
It's a lot of money. Yeah.
This budget is actually calling for us to actually use those carryovers, which means that there's a potential issue for fiscal '26 because those revenues will not be there. The PL and 5303 funding is increasing. And there was a significant increase given the redistribution formulas and some agreements that were made coming into fiscal '25. So those increases are included in the numbers you have here. There's expected to be an increase from fiscal '25 to '26. But the key element that we need to look at it and monitor through the year is, what will happen to any type of carryover. Some of these carryovers were created over the last couple of years when we've had, lower than anticipated staffing. So we didn't earn, what we had wanted or what we had expected, so it turned into a carryover. So the good news is that we're not losing any of that funding for not having fully utilized it. But the management issue, the funding issue is that we now need to be cognizant of that element being used this year and therefore not available next year as we look to fully utilize the fiscal '25 grant amounts as well.
Okay.
So don't want to overemphasize, but I just wanted to make sure that we're clear there.
Yeah, thanks for that, because that didn't come to my attention.
The
So thank
TPO assessment, the
Yeah,
last line,
that's nice. I would go ahead at that. So you know I'm going there. So thank you for going
that
there.
is included at zero
I wondered why.
because we rolled that amount into the general. So instead of having a separate assessment specifically for the TPO, there was a decision earlier this year that we would actually roll that into the general local membership due amount.
Okay. Okay, I got you.
So you kind of see a swap of some amounts there. The
Okay.
increase in general revenues to 63,000 is somewhat offset by the 54,000 in the
Gotcha.
TPO.
I'm on board. Good, I'm on board.
So what that does, it gives us, the flexibility to move that money to where we would need it to be.
Very good. Good.
Currently, the $54,000, as related to the TPO and our max requirements, those funds were exhausted by mid-October. And so it just gave us a little bit more flexibility, made a little bit more sense rather than passing two elements to have the one. And then as we go down the different groups, you kind of see where the revenue sources are. And each of those groups are working to develop new funding sources. The environment, you see a CPRG project direct expenses for $308,000.
Yeah, I'm looking.
That's essentially year two of the climate pollution reduction grant. that we received, that was awarded, like June of 22?
It was just
Or-
awarded in about August of 2023.
Okay,
We just kicked it off this fiscal year.
so it was $1 million grant,
Yeah, I remember
but over 4 years,
Over 4 years, that's what it was, that's right, I remember now.
with, this piece being, a consultant piece. So
Okay.
again, I split that out so I can monitor better the amounts available for personnel and our operations versus that which is going to pass through other entities.
Okay, gotcha.
And then as you continue to go down the very last section on that page, other program revenues. Right now, we only have a couple of items plus the CVTA partnership listed. Those are items that are known. They are projects and partners that we've worked with previously. But it's another area where there's significant work ongoing to develop those revenue sources, especially in the community development column.
Community development.
So as we look at
Gotcha.
each
Okay, I got you.
column, each of our major programs, you see that there's, more of a burden in, the columns to the left, the newer programs. But that's kind of by design at this point, as we're trying to develop those areas. And so there, at this point, general funding, administrative funding is what's essentially funding those.
Okay,
And so as we get those programs developed, the revenue will come, and then they'll be directly funded by those programs, which will then free up the general funds to, meet match requirements to be investment funding again for whatever the next phase may be. So, any questions on the revenue?
yeah, our services fee is adequate for CVTA, you think we're adequate, for CVTA, what are your thoughts there? You think we charging enough, should we be charging more, that sort of thing? I know they got a new director now
The amounts listed
with,
are per our agreement,
per agreement, so we agreed upon percentages.
and
Okay.
we're part of what the CVTA passes their budget.
Okay,
So we
okay,
are coordinated with them.
so we okay. And it's by agreement, right?
Yes.
It's by-
Five-year agreement
five-year
executed
agreement.
in 2023. So this will be the second year of that five-year agreement. And it includes a 10% administration fee on all of our pass-through that we administer and on the direct service we
Good.
provide.
Good.
So I think we can monitor over the next few
Yeah,
years.
check that and see where we are.
Certainly can renegotiate, but I think the relationship
needed.
has been good.
It's great.
And we're continuing to, move through the definition of what's needed from support to be able to
Okay.
make sure that they're operating the way that they need to.
Good. Just continue to monitor so we, don't get behind.
I would say too, we're having conversations that becomes sort of the standard. So, if we entertain other relationships like that, then we have that baseline. We can talk about this at future finance committee meetings, but I think the idea would be that 10% fee is, becomes the standard for
Okay.
support to other public bodies.
Good.
If it's more of a private relationship, then perhaps the fee structure is different. So
Yeah.
we're starting to get inquiries about grant writing assistance and things like that. And so
And there might
I'm
be,
starting to
yes,
think about what
Yeah, yeah,
that schedule
What reasonable
of
portion
fee
of that would
structure
be.
would be.
absolutely. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're thinking that way. That's good. That's where we want to be. I just want to make sure that we have at least that baseline going forward in agreement, so it codifies that, which is great. So we go forward, but thank you for that, Martha. I think that's the way to go. But anyway, that's the only question I have there. Dan,
Okay.
anything else you want to go over that you think is important for next year's budget?
Yep. Page 24, page
24.
2 of the budget,
Okay, all
the
right.
very top section
All right.
is another change.
Pass through, okay.
I just grouped all of our pass-through revenue and expenses in one place by design.
Thank you.
They just come to zero.
Thank you for that.
So we
Yeah.
match,
Yeah.
especially in that emergency management column.
Very
They have a
good.
lot of activity
Yes,
of being the conduit of equipment, of training, of different things like that. But one of the effects is that when we're including it in the regular revenues, trending and, understanding what's available for our operations versus what's passing through just became a little bit more difficult. So I think this way it simplifies for us.
So much better. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and
it.
there you see in the CBTA column, you know, that's where all the pass-through is
That's a
coming
huge
from.
one. Yeah, I see. Very good. That's very good scripted. Very good,
Okay.
Dan. Thank you.
Now, the other thing on this page to look at is that salaries and wages, the 2.584 million, that's listed there, that does not include any increase
Yes, I figured that.
at this point.
But, so that will have to go up.
It does include provision for a vacant slot
Okay.
that we put on hold. So
All right.
we'll need to make some decisions about moving forward. But then you look at the unnumbered lines, compensation pool salaries, 5%. That 129,000 represents 5% of the salaries and wages.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
That is our goal.
That's our goal. Good. We should
For
have that
staff?
goal. I think we should. Great.
But
Thank you.
given what I said earlier about our revenue projection for fiscal '26, we need to be careful about what type of commitments we make in this coming year.
I got you. There will be a
If
carry
you give
forward.
someone a raise, then that's a raise in
It's fixed.
perpetuity.
Yeah, it's fixed. You're right.
And so we're currently working through some scenarios as to how best equitably to distribute those funds, whether to distribute those funds and by what mechanism. You know, do we use a bonus pool,
Yeah,
which is a one-time
yeah. I like bonus pools.
element?
Yeah.
Or whether, you know, there may be people who are eligible for merit increases. So we just want to keep those options open
Yeah,
in a way that we can do so with a very, you know, deliberate
Yeah.
sense to them,
right.
with our eyes towards the future, that we know that in '26, you know, there's some revenue building that we need to do this year to make, to ensure
And enhance,
the following.
facilitate. Absolutely right. Well, we know that we gotta go up, and I think a bonus pool is a great idea. I think that's something we can fix in that helps with regard to fixed costs, and it's still, it's a reward, you know, you gotta continue reward.
Yeah, and there,
You know,
yeah, there are some,
Overall,
you know, equity
rules.
ideas as well, as far as, you know, are all relative levels of the staff compensated in a way that's,
yeah.
you know, what we would want for them.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know what other members would think, but what their thoughts are, and I'm always open to, you know, people's thoughts, but I do like the idea of a bonus pool opportunity. And we know that's got to augment too. We know we got to augment that for the aforementioned reasons, which is good. But that's good. I think that's important.
Okay,
And, but I always welcome input, you know, think your thoughts and what you think we should do too, you know.
What did the counties,
So we haven't passed our budget yet, but we're looking at a 3% increase.
it looked like around the region and the state, it was somewhere between 3 to 5, depending
Yeah,
on
we'll 4.
resources.
we'll
I think
4%.
James City County did 4 as
Yeah,
well.
we did 4.
So
When I
we, and we
budget.
kind of, we started off at 4%, but we are trying not to raise taxes.
Okay.
But I think traditionally I like raises, but when we're looking at projected income and we're unsure if that's
Right.
gonna be sustainable, I think bonus pools are more responsible.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. Same page. Thank you.
so
Thank
two
you,
other
Jordan.
considerations
Thank you, Jordan.
with
Yeah.
that is, you know, we're thinking about perhaps a staging as well, you know, do a piece
Okay.
in the nearer term, and then see how the year unfolds.
Sounds
So,
great. That makes
We're
sense.
going through a number of different scenarios.
Okay.
You know, the other element is, if you remember, in the summer, fall, we did the restructure, reorganization of staff.
That's
One
what
of the
I'm
major
alluding to.
emphasis being,
Yeah,
you know, making sure that we create opportunities for all staff.
that's good. That's
And
good.
so,
Yeah.
you know, again, you know, preserving, you know, that tool. You know, compensation tool, you know, it's not why everybody's working here.
No, it's not.
And, you know, thankfully why people, you know, what people are expressing in their working
Right.
here is they love the work.
Yeah, that's great.
But there's still, you know, a competitive issue with, you know, attracting people,
You gotta
with
pay for
retaining
performance
people.
and excellence. You gotta pay.
And then recognizing what you just said, Mr. Holland, you know, we have people doing excellent work. And so we want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're respectful of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's good.
So that's why we teed this up this way.
Well, great. I like that approach. I think you know where I stand
Right.
there. And one other area of opportunity would be professional development plans. When we have professional development, I know we, in our fire department and other departments, we're big on, we have sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 developmental plans. But we reward, as you develop, we reward you more. You get another % increase in pay, so pay, it does engender, more maybe fixed versus, but it does give you an incentive in terms of professional development, training, and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? That's maybe something for the people to contemplate. If you think it's needed, I don't know, Martha, your philosophy and your vision, but those are kind of things that I think we need to flush out and contemplate, not implement, but contemplate.
Our, last year, the board adopted a succession management plan, and a component of that was, development of criteria for identification of high potential and high performing employees. And so we've been using that as a guide to inform the organizational structure, changes that we made earlier this year, but also to be able to create more of a classification system within the agency, which we haven't had for my tenure. And so I think that will help us to develop a set of benchmarks that employees can know and see, from a transparency perspective.
Great.
I think it'll be a little bit less structured than what we might see in a public safety department, but it will be based on credentialing, performance related to the agency's performance, so we're able to measure staff teams' contributions to improve revenue projections, things like that. I think our desire is to be able to set opportunities for employees to benefit from that.
Benchmarks, I love that.
That
Thank you.
improvement. So-
I like that. Thank you.
So I think we are, it sounds like we are where you are asking us to be. We're actively talking about this. Our staff over the next 3 to 4 weeks will be meeting with everyone will be meeting with their supervisor to talk about goals for the coming
Great, good.
6-month period. And
Wonderful.
we've just done a staff meeting training on how to think about goals, and so we'll be reviewing all of those, and that input from supervisors will also, I think, be useful in the conversation about compensation adjustments, whether it's salary adjustments or bonuses.
Yeah. I like that bonus idea, especially too. So that's great. I'm glad you're thinking that way and you're moving there. And another thing too that I think is so important when we consider the context of this, as you said, Dan, is that, overall a working environment in terms of, job satisfaction is something that's ongoing that you gotta look at, that people are happy where they work at. And I've seen a lot of organizations, I've been in a lot of them, and they don't put the emphasis there on job satisfaction and employee morale. I don't see that as being as important. I think it's critically important, when you have people that hey, they really like working here. I know in the county, it was in the paper Sunday, I don't know if y'all mentioned briefly the other night, it kind of was quick though, about, we've been one of the top places to work for the past several years, Chesterfield. And what we do is look at employee satisfaction in a lot of those areas, and what we doing, and are we doing better? Are we having more flexibility in terms of volunteerism, opportunities, hours, and being able to take off and do things and volunteer, which has been very important. Something like that, paid time off and things like that. So those are good things. I appreciate that, and I think as we move in that direction, those are important variables. But workforce happiness, morale, I think is critically important. Okay.
I'll just
Okay.
call attention on that last page of the budget, just so you can
Okay,
see.
I'm there.
There's a section actually titled staff development.
Where's
Yeah,
that?
I was gonna walk through that.
Okay, that'd be
Okay,
great, Dan.
good,
Thank you.
good. Thank you, Dan. I know you were headed to
Rick.
the last page. Thank you.
Right now, I'm on page 25.
That's where I am too.
The very top section is called direct expenses, or direct cost pool. Those are expenses that are directly identified in our grants or, program funding. The comparative there is difficult because it's, depends on the particular grant and the plans for those years. But one element is actually important. The second line down, 6130, contracted services. See, there's 305,000 in environment, that's for the consultant that I mentioned before. And then there's 50,000 in transportation. That's down considerably from what our second version of the 24 budget is.
I got you, 200,000.
You know, that was a very conscious decision, was to de-emphasize consultants in this coming year
Okay,
so that we could use those funding sources for funding our own operations. So with the buildup of staff that's
growth.
occurred this
Good.
last year,
Staff growth, yeah.
a couple of the new positions, and
Good.
also, you know, an opportunity for the staff to do, you know, rather than farming out certain work, it helps some of our staff to step up to do certain work.
I like that, development.
And so,
love
but,
that.
you know, it comes with a little bit of a risk.
Sure, and always does.
And are there the capabilities within the staff to do that?
I've been assured that yes.
I will say, if I can, Dan mentioned that we have a pipeline of grant proposals, and if those are awarded, you can probably start to see that we don't have the personnel to do that. And so, I think what we're trying to do is maintain our options. And so we have received, I think it was 22 proposals from firms to sit on our on-call engineering and planning bench. And so we will have at our disposal on-call firms that if we get these grants in or we get a request from the local government, we'll be able to quickly access those professional services. So that's our way of being able to make sure that capacity and resources are.
Yeah, quasi, yeah, good.
So
Good.
we're doing that in the spirit of sort of, I'll say, preparation, so that if we get these grants that are in the pipeline, we don't get into that trouble of. Also, I think that the scary part for organizations like us, when things like the infrastructure bill come out, is that it forces organizations to gear up capacity, and then inevitably those federal grant dollars go away.
I hear you.
And then you've
Yeah.
got personnel that you
Right.
don't know how to sustain.
Right.
And so we're keeping an eye on that. Everything that I think Dan's been talking through today about, you know, this is probably the first time in my tenure, Eric, you might agree, that we've talked about the subsequent year in the context of the upcoming budget. And so we're trying to look at how we can think, if not in the material that we're providing you, but think longer down the road than just the next 12 months. And so all of these tactics are things that we're hoping, that we expect will sort of help us maintain that stability through this period of, hopefully spike in revenue. But then when we contract down, we're not in a position of having to do like a reduction in force or anything like that.
Great. You know, one area.
Is that okay? Did I?
No, that was
You agree?
great. I was
Okay.
going to add on to that,
Good.
you know,
Thank you.
the other element,
Yeah,
trying
thank
to
you.
emphasize kind of behind the
Okay.
paper is kind of the dynamic nature of our budgeting now.
Okay.
Is with our regular reporting and regular analysis, we can be more agile in how we adjust to opportunities.
That's good.
And so, you know, we're not looking at this document as a fixed piece of paper for the next 12, or for those 12 months. This
Good.
is where we're starting, and as
Okay.
things evolve and develop,
Gotcha.
we'll
Okay.
develop those procedures about how we, you know, keep that interaction going. And keep the contingencies in place so that we can seize those opportunities, or we can adjust before we have to do, you know, some of the hard decisions of a reduction in force type thing.
That's
But
great.
also be able to invest in our people, so.
Yeah, that's great to invest. And one area of opportunity I think we should, I don't know if we've ever contemplated or thought about, is having a direct relationship with our congressional staff. I'm thinking about Jennifer McCollum.
Yeah, we could
I'm
definitely
thinking about,
benefit from.
I know Don McKeesha, he gave us
Yes.
a $1 million grant for the train station in Ettrick from the Biden administration. It was the Biden infrastructure plan. He gave us a $1 million grant to help improve that train station. I think having our congressional staffs on notice with grant and grant opportunities will be helpful for us, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
And you could be on the
We-
forefront of
we
all of
haven't-
us in the region, helping us in Chesterfield and maybe Richmond and New Kent and others. I think that's an opportunity.
I agree. I'll make note of that, because we haven't done as good of a job recently of keeping those. But I think in particular with the congressional awards, that are, you know, the new version of the earmarks, it's something we should pay attention to.
Okay, thank you for looking into that. All right.
And then the other point of emphasis, the 7,000 series, the indirect cost pool. You know, this is kind of our capacity for being here, rent, technology, those type of things. A lot of what you'll see as far as, you know, some increases is, this is compared to the second budget for fiscal '24, which was a reduction from what we had planned for '24, given our budget situation and our adjustments. So a number of the increases that were there are actually due to restoring back to that version 1 level. So there's not actually, you know, this may appear as though that there are some increases in a couple of the areas, but it's actually restoring to the other level.
I got you. Okay.
You know, we do have some savings in certain areas. You know, our technology support, it's gone down pursuant to an RFP executed this year. You know, but there's a reinvestment in some of our software services. And then flipping over to the last page, section 7400, staff development. You know, this is kind of what I was talking about, that the increases are restorations and some increases. You know, the years of COVID and coming out of COVID, you know, the training budgets were pretty thin.
They were.
And so,
in many cases.
you know, the increase represents, you know, the emphasis to staff to make sure that we're investing in them.
Good.
We have a greater number of staff. I
Good.
think in 2 years, we've grown from 25 to 30. With a number of them being, you know, earlier in their careers. And so that investment is very important to make sure that we continue to do so.
I think that's great. I'm glad to see that. That's an area of very importance for me. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
And then again,
Go ahead.
in that bottom area, the 9,000,
Okay.
the office furniture amount, the 50,000,
Right.
came down from what we had planned for this year.
Yeah.
But as Martha indicated earlier in the meeting, you know, very much something where we were detailing specifically what we felt we needed to do this coming year to continue the upgrade. And then the second one, again, $25,000 to continue that technology, you know, turnover renewal.
Turnover replacement. Yeah, that makes sense. That's expected, yeah. And we won't be on cycle. If we can get on cycle, that'll be great, you know, close to cycle gradually. That would be nice if we can get there. But yeah, overall, that's very good. I'm very pleased with the training, focus and emphasis there. And, let's see, I think that's very important. So, but wow. So our budget is looking really good in terms of next year. Now, one other thing I was gonna ask, I'm glad it just came back to me. Shazam, I'm thinking and my mind is moving forward. And that is, when you present the budget, present an outline of the employee numbers, just categories of like where were we before last year, where we this year for the fiscal 25-year budget numbers, where we do sort of like a comparative analysis, and then that sort of show maybe, we've done it in the past. Remember, Martha, when we had the report, we talked about, well, how many employees do we have, how many part-times do we have, how many of this, that sort of thing. Have a page with that information would be great. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, we
work
can do
out? Okay, if we can do that, that'll be very helpful. Let me think of something else I'm thinking of.
The budget work program will get presented, obviously with the numbers that
Yeah,
you see
that we
today,
have.
but will get presented with slides, and it'll be
Okay.
at the joint annual meeting.
Good.
So we'll be reviewing, you know, kind of the content of the work program in a fixed number of slides, and then we'll have
Got one little page you used to
much
present.
of what Dan went through verbally today, we'll have in summary slides so we can provide that supplemental information.
Yeah, great, that'll be helpful. And one last area, I'm always trying to think of things that can help us and we can help others help. You know, on the chair of the Workforce Consortium, which is all 9 jurisdictions, including, you know, is there anything we could do, any positions we can pay for? Because we're always about helping train people, whatever. If there's something we could pay for to help facilitate, like maybe assistants or student helpers or workers, something like
You
that.
mean the workforce?
Workforce,
I can
there's
talk
something
to
that we,
Brian.
yeah, talk to him and see if
Okay.
there's something we can pay for.
Sure.
Brian,
Sure.
that we could do. We gave Charles City $145,000 for their Parks and Rec department. And we could give we could have some ways to bring in people
Yeah,
that can help them learn and earn, and then we can pay for it through Workforce Consortium.
that'd be great.
I would
Okay.
love to do
I
that.
can reach out to Brian. We're talking with him about,
And what he
Project
can
work,
do,
so
they can get some
that'd be great.
folk in there that can help do that. That would be wonderful. That way we'll provide some more revenue and some more opportunities for others to learn and network with you all, learn from you all. How about that? Is that great?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I'll follow up with him.
Yeah, please do. Let's work on that too. Anything else you'd like to say, Dan? Great job on the budget. Y'all looking good. We're looking great. The big focus, I know let me get back to, I'm sorry, get back to the thing here where we talked about proposed budget. We got that here, item 6. Let's look at item 7, where we talk about committee priorities. I think we discussed last year.
I'm sorry, if I may.
Please, you may, yeah.
Is the committee willing to take any action as far as recommendations of the budget?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm just going on with so happy, just have saying, yeah, yay.
I think it would be,
Recommendations,
I think it
yeah.
would be helpful for us if we could say to the full
I recommend
commission
to.
that there was a detailed review.
We will, Martha.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just assuming everything was happy and good. You know, you got it. Okay, I move that we present the budget and discussions for fiscal year 24 and 25 to the full commission. And would you?
2 of 2, I second it.
I second that too, so we're in agreement there.
Unanimous.
So you guys, unanimous. I love that. So thank you, Martha, for slowing me down. I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I just
appreciate
get carried away. But anyway, thank you all for that. I appreciate that. And also the discussion priorities for 25. I think we talked about earlier, I saw somewhere listed where we had in some of the minutes, things that we were working on, such as fund balance. We're working on some other initiatives. You have them listed very well. I remember looking at that earlier. Some priorities we have, oh yeah, there it is. If you look at the minutes from page, March 20th, from Ms. Stewart got her name corrected, which is nice. Cash flow management plan, fund balance policies, those are upcoming things we want to continue to focus on and have on our radar. Budget priorities, I think we're there. You know, what other budget priorities other members may have. And of course, those are, now, how is our banking relationship? Are we happy with our banker? Do we want to make a change? Are y'all willing to make a
I
change?
think we need to.
Consider that. I'm prepared to recommend that y'all consider whether we need to enhance our banking relationship and consider even maybe Town Bank. They seem to be a really good group. We use them for tourism. They came in and they're giving money to us in tourism. They're contributing to us. That's not the impetus, but the impetus is great service and relationship. And that's one thing we want to look at going forward. How can we facilitate a better banking relationship and maybe provide some additional services in terms of investment and things like that? How about that? Does that work?
Yeah, I think that's something that we've considered.
Okay.
You're not in the very near term, but probably in
We should be
in the
phasing
in the
it in.
later fiscal 25.
Maybe we can look at as the year unfolds, what we can have an incremental plan of what we can do.
Right.
Can we do that?
Agreed, yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's all I can think of is what we need to do. And certainly we are always open to other members. And Ms. Stewart, you have any ideas, even after the fact, that you would like to suggest? You can always call us back.
So I will call if anything comes to mind, but I think you guys have everything covered from what I am aware of today.
Well, thank you.
I think
Appreciate your presence.
there's one additional element,
Please.
our audit RFP.
That's right. Where are we?
I think we're about to enter our third of 3 years.
Third of 3, good. Third of 3.
So we'll need to obviously close this year. with the
Monitor
audit.
it in terms of our happiness and what we need to do going forward.
And there'll be a point that we need to walk
Make
through.
sure that we're on schedule and that the services are, on time and that sort of thing, and responsive. All right, I appreciate that. Great. Anything we need to do here, Martha, for you all in that area, or you okay, Dan? Y'all can take the lead and go there, you know where we're trying to go, so that's good.
I will say that I think this committee should spend time before that RFP is released, talking about the realities of how our agency has evolved and grown. And oftentimes those types of services, prospective bidders take a look at what the current engagement is and the historic investment in that service. And that is a determining factor in whether or not they will submit a proposal or not. So I think we need to have a transparent conversation about whether or not the RFP is intended to seek a new provider or is intended to renew the engagement. If you catch my drift.
I got you. I'm on board. Yeah, I'm always of the mind, is there opportunity for improvement? Can we improve? Even if it costs us a little more money?
That's, I think yeah.
That's
And-
where I
and-
would like to go.
And I think it heavily bears into just the reality of, is our funding mix changing? Is the complexity of our operation evolving? And, does that require a level of service that we need to invest in? Whether it's the same provider or not, but the reality is this organization financially is very different than it was 3 years ago.
I
when we
agree.
did that engagement.
I agree. So, good. I think that's something that you should put forth on a future
Okay.
agenda, their current and future needs of the organization relative to external audit.
Just to clarify, I heard fund balance, cash flow management, budget policy, banking
Yeah,
relationship.
budget policy,
and
bank
audit.
relationship, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just
Those
wanna
are
make
things
sure
we
I'm on the
want,
list.
thank you for documenting that. Yeah, I think that's a great future item for the committee, and hopefully we I greatly appreciate Ms. Stewart being here today and helping us. And if we can make sure we get the right, good complement of people on the finance committee.
Should I add membership to the?
Yeah, membership, add
Okay.
membership, because I miss Pat O'Bannon, I miss my friend from Hanover, Canovas Peterson, I miss them, I miss them. They will always be here and they always had suggestions and ideas and they pushed us. I love that, having that balance. So I think membership is an important thing for, and then having chair and vice chair too, so that if I'm not here, somebody else can take the ball and keep running.
And
All right.
on that note, I will just say thank you so much for your willingness to join the executive team and officers and service treasurer and receive the nomination that's forthcoming.
I'm happy to. I know one of the
so thank
struggles that
you.
I have is I'm one of 2 supervisors in New Kent that's not retired. So, and
Okay,
both of
I
us
know
work
that
in
feeling.
Richmond, so we get all of the Richmond collateral duties. So I get to go right across the bridge back to the Patrick Henry building. So I'm happy to be here and happy to do it because
Okay.
I really, like I said, I live in Eastern New Kent, but I'm really engaged in Richmond and the
Right.
region. So happy to be a
We
part
really
of
So
it.
we're so glad you're convenient. That's good. We
Well,
moved to
they're
the
like,
right
"Do you want-"
location.
I committed to all these collateral duties before I knew what they were, and now I'm like, I'm glad I have them, but I was like, I did not know what I got myself
Right,
into. But
right,
I'm happy
right.
to be here, and
It's a lot.
I think it does. I mean, it benefits the region. The regional approach means success for everybody.
It
So,
does, yeah.
happy to be here and happy
Thanks.
to contribute.
Yeah, thank you, Bo. Thank you, appreciate it. Any other comments or questions for us? On the agenda, what else we got? On the agenda, I think we have nothing else but what? Adjourn.
Can you tell us what time the meeting is on June 13th?
The breakfast starts at 8:00
Okay.
with kind of networking and grab some breakfast food, and the meeting will call to order at 8:30.
Sounds
How long
great.
is that scheduled to last?
Scheduled to go to 11:15.
Okay.
And the materials will come out on June 3rd, but there should be a calendar invite already if you're getting the Outlook invites from
I
us.
am.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll make sure that all that's updated with all of the agenda
Okay.
information.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Any suggestions, Martha, on TPO or anything like that, let me know.
Okay,
Think
yeah,
about it
I'm
beforehand.
supposed to get with Mr. Davis next week.
And work on things and let me know if anything else you need to prompt me to a footnote or note or
Okay.
something like that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes,
Everybody okay? Good, good, all right,
Thank you all.
thank you, Janice.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.